Hi, everyone. This is Jason. Welcome back to the show. Joining me today is Hope Pham. Hope is the Chief Marketing Officer at Pixelmatic, the company behind Infinite Fleet, the new MMO real-time strategy game. For updates on Infinite Fleet, follow at Infinite Fleet on Twitter. You can follow Pixelmatic at Pixelmatic, and we're going to put the website and the contact information in the description below so you can check it out for yourself. Hope, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Jason, for having me. It's a pleasure.
I have to tell you, and we kind of talked about it before, I am so looking forward to this game because it reminds me so much of Macross and Robotech that it literally took me back to 1985.
Yeah, that's something we're going for actually. So I'm glad I'm glad it rings a bell for you.
Well, it did, and it was interesting because as soon as I saw it, I was like, that looks like the SDF1, and just all these bells started going off. I was like, I want this game.
Yeah,
But let me ask you a question for the people who may not know. How did you first get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
yeah. Actually, that's an interesting question. I got into Bitcoin completely out of necessity, I would say. Because I think it sort of depends on which era of the 10-year Bitcoin history that people got in at. If you got in 2017, it was probably because everybody was speculating and there was money to be made, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I got in early 2016, simply because I was actually living abroad, traveling a lot, and it was just difficult to transfer money to pay for things because my bank in Canada was actually very, very draconian. They required customers to go physically into the branch to do an international wire transfer, which in 2016, I think that's pretty ridiculous. So basically, there was no way for me to really do international wire transfers. So I just sort of stumbled upon this magical internet money and tried it out, and it worked great. Back then, there was the it was the price was a lot lower, so and not many people knew about it back then. It's crazy how fast things have gone and how much has changed over the past 3-4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true because when I first got in, people were talking about Bitcoin and it was starting to become spoken about in the media more and more, but it still had an air of this just weird digital money that nerds online talk about. And it wasn't nowhere near the powerhouse that it is now, where banks and you know uh stock markets are all keeping Bitcoin in the back of their mind, when it comes to their finances. So it's definitely come a long way, and in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, it's only been 2009 since the first Bitcoin was mined. So that's pretty good to change financial to just change the way people think about money so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Just the general vibe. You've been around for a while, obviously. Just the general vibe on Twitter or just in the space is so different now compared to 3-4 years ago, right? Because back
Right.
then it was more just like cypherpunk. It was more sort of a bunch of online outcasts who were super into this thing, right? But
Yeah.
nobody else really knew about it, and all the media were writing was this Bitcoin scam or getting quotes from the banker dudes like Buffett and whatever. But now if you look at the space, you go on Twitter, look at the conversations people are posting. It's so much more financial, so much more professional almost in a way, without all the trading talk, technical analysis, and institutional money and derivatives, all these things, right? So it's
Right.
crazy how much it's evolved in just 3 short years, 4 years.
So I want to talk to you about the game. So Infinite Fleet, it's a MMO where you control different. You actually control a fleet of vehicles. But what is it about Infinite Fleet that adds the Bitcoin component?
Yeah, it's interesting how you asked about that because at the core of the project itself, the game is a game. So, this is not some ICO or whatever that you're used to, that, people in the space got used to 3 years ago. We are actually here to build a game. We have a very professional team of veteran game designers on the team working on the game. A lot of them came from real-time strategy game backgrounds at some of the biggest studios in Canada, such as Relic or BioWare. So these guys are people who worked on games like Company of Heroes, Dawn of War, which I know is one of your favorites, and
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Homeworld. Yeah, legendary old space game Homeworld. So yeah, I mean, we definitely assembled a team to make an incredible game and to sort of revolutionize the genre a little bit, because there's not too many sort of fresh things out there in the strategy genre for especially for massively multiplayer online games, because
Mhm.
nowadays the big MMOs are mostly sort of RPG or for FPS games, right?
Right.
So we want to bring back a little bit of the RTS elements to multiplayer online games, which obviously it's huge now, but it's going to be even bigger in the future because everything is digitalized and it's just easier to stay home and do things online. And
Right.
more people are going to do that, especially the kids nowadays growing up with iPads when they're 4 years old, right? Um, so yeah, in terms of the crypto component, so that's where we're doing things very differently, because we do have expertise on our team in both industries, both in gaming and in Bitcoin and crypto.
Right.
But a lot of the approach that you have seen people take in the blockchain, so-called blockchain gaming space in the past 2 years, have been NFTs, non-fungible tokens, or putting special cards or items on the blockchain, such as crypto kitties or all the card trading games, right? But the problem with that approach, I think, is if you're doing everything, if you're doing every single transaction on chain, it's a lot of work. It costs people money to do it, because you have to, if you're doing ERC20 stuff on Ethereum, you have to send gas. Basically, you have to buy Ethereum. You have to pay for everything you do on chain, right?
Right.
And speed is not there, the performance is not there, and the games themselves are generally quite shallow. They're not very immersive, and they don't have a lot of depth. They're not like the games that we can play on PS4 or on our gaming PCs, right?
Right.
So for us, we don't think that approach really works, because it has a very unfriendly user experience and has a very high barrier to entry for gamers who don't understand anything about blockchain. So we're taking the opposite approach. One of our goals obviously is to bring greater adoption of Bitcoin and crypto to the mainstream audience, but we're sort of doing it with the Trojan horse type of approach. So we're going to build a game, a proper game, like WoW or Eve Online,
Mhm.
like that people can play for hours, basically a second life for people. But we are for the currency of the game. So, for example, in World of Warcraft, you have WoW Gold, right? So for the currency of our game, we're going to make that a cryptocurrency, which is going to be issued on the Liquid network, a sidechain of Bitcoin, so that players, when they spend a lot of time, when they devote their efforts, time, and money into playing the game, they will probably accumulate a decent amount of the game currency, which, since it's a crypto, it becomes frictionless for its portability. So players can move it from inside the game to their personal wallet, or
Mhm.
to maybe a cryptocurrency exchange, and convert it to something else, maybe to BTC or something that has real world value, right?
Right.
So I think that incentivizes the players a lot to not only learn how crypto works, but they need to learn how to operate a wallet or how to send a crypto asset, right? So that's going to introduce them to this entire new world, which they may not have cared about earlier, because when that incentive is there, who's not going to want to do it?
Right. When would someone, or I guess the question is, when are we gonna see like a demo that we can play, or when is it gonna be rolled out for our audiences?
Yeah, so the game is under development at the moment. We are in the pre-production phase already. the plan is for us to release a playable alpha version by the end of 2020, and then beta the following year in 2021. So the team was working very hard at the moment, to try to push this thing out as soon as possible. And sometimes we joke around because this very huge game, or the huge game that hasn't come out yet, Star Citizen, right? They've done a very, very, very successful fundraising campaign to sell spaceships and stuff ahead of time for their game. They're led by some very famous game designers, but it's been a long time since they promised that they would push the game out, but it still hasn't happened. So we have this sort of like inside running joke that we're going to release our game before Star Citizen. So hopefully by next year or 2022 the latest.
Okay, sounds good.
So the general sense of the game is it's going to be like a mix of fast action RTS where you're in battle and you have to maybe micromanage a little bit and move your units and be strategic and cooperate with other players, but there's also going to be an element that's sort of ongoing grand strategy type of element where you're just like floating around in space. You can build stuff. You can build stuff on your space stations. You can mine asteroids, and you can interact with other players and trade and all these things, right? So there's sort of two elements. So, but yeah, you're going to be in command of a fleet of 6 to 8 ships, let's say, and there's going to be small fighters that can take off from your motherships and things like that. But those are going to be AI controlled. So you would give them tasks and they would sort of fly around by themselves. But the main thing you're going to play with is you're going to have a fleet of 6 to 8 large ships that you will also be able to customize, to upgrade, and to replace.
Nice. I seriously, I cannot wait. I really want to play this game. So everyone, I'm going to include in the description below links to Infinite Fleet and to Pixelmatic's websites. I want you to click on those links. I want you to sign up for updates. And we're going to do a review of the game once it's released. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate your time.
All right, take care.